Thank you. So, yes, transitioning from students to adults. At BYU, you may be better prepared for it than other places, but we're going to talk about it nonetheless. It's me, my wife, it's my daughter. Actually, a year older, that's an old photo. Taking selfies at a Sam.
And then we're going to show them the eye tracking stuff that connects.
So here's stuff that's important to me. Anyone do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Not yet? Okay. There's two kind of people in the world. People that do Jiu-Jitsu and those who should be doing Jiu-Jitsu. This kind of in order of what's important to me. Education being the least interesting. So I've owned a couple of businesses. When I was finishing my MBA at UCLA, I bought a marketing agency, not because my parents have money, but because I was too young to know better and borrowed a ton of money to buy it, which ended up working out well for me. I was very fortunate. I grew that agency. It was a mix of traditional and digital. So it started off as like a print marketing agency. We did a lot of fundraising for nonprofits, that sort of thing. And then we evolved into a digital agency, or a hybrid. Right around that time, my friend and partner, Joey Garcia, was at Facebook, and he was running campaigns on behalf of these big brands and these big agencies. This was before Instagram existed. It's back in the old days. Not too long after, you had to have a .edu to be on Facebook. If you don't know about that, Wikipedia. So we really saw the future of social media as being not just an important channel, but perhaps the most important channel. I think our prognostication was validated by the previous two presidential elections, Cambridge Analytica, et cetera, et cetera. We saw how much data people were giving up about themselves, both direct and metadata, and that it was just inherently engaging and addictive, and that people are by nature social, and that those platforms will become very, very important. So I sold my agency, did pretty well with that, was fortunate enough to get to move to Santa Barbara, and so I live there in LA, and there you have it, Dapper Goat. So what's it like to be a one percenter? I sold my agency, I made some money. My life changed that much afterwards. But this isn't a question so much for me, but for all of you. I would love to hear what it's like to be a one percenter. Who wants to talk about it? Anyone talk about their experience as a one percenter? Yes. That's right. That's what I was going to tell my daughter. I said, your mom and I have money, but you're broke. Um, anyone else? What's your experience as a one percenter? Nobody? Right, because the one percenters are the multimillionaires and billionaires, right, in the United States, but not worldwide. Right, so it's relative. If you make $32,400, you're in the top 1% of income in the world. So that's basically a job at Applebee's, right? Which, if you're not working, anyone could go get Starbucks, right? You're in the 1%. So the perspective matters, right? It's relative. So where I live, you drive around Montecito, $30 to $50 million estates are common. It's very easy to feel poor driving around there. But you look around the whole world and you start to understand how fortunate we all are. Maybe you're not necessarily borrowing money, but a lot of people are. I did. Business school was $150,000. Okay, why are you in college? Anyone have a good answer? Yes, sir.
So I'm in college just so I could kind of like be that trailblazer for the rest of my family.
Mm-hmm.
Education is always really important to me. I'm first generation in the country and in college, so I just thought I'm gonna go and I'm Like, what's the word for that?
I dig it.
Posterity. My family basically is just kind of being that trailblazer and kind of leaving that landmark for them.
Where's your family from?
So,
Okay. Yeah. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Learn a lot of skills that I think people do not want to advise everything.
Okay.
And if that's like with family, but also like with enemies and people.
hmm So, what made you think college is a good place to learn skills?
Honestly, my family,
Yeah.
my parents and my grandparents are all agricultural.
Okay.
So it's and like what you do.
It's my wife's side of the family. Yeah. Okay. So the reason I'm at Why Digital is because this doesn't exist really anywhere else that I know of, but it should, which is practical skills, right? In addition to the theory. So there's a cultural pressure to go to college, right? And we just sort of react and kind of do it, and then there's a lot of prestige, and you get to go home at Thanksgiving, and everyone's like, "Oh, my son and daughter is at BYU, and it's so amazing." And then everyone, it feels good, right? And then you graduate, and now you're just another person with a degree who doesn't yet have a job, right? So there's, and perhaps a lot of debt. So how are you using your time in college, right? It's really important. What you learn in the classroom is probably not very important. Taken about 300 hours of calculus. I've never used calculus. I've never kind of used calculus. I've never thought about calculus. I don't even know that I learned meta skills from doing calculus, right? I've definitely learned more in jujitsu, and I'm being serious, about life and business and people and myself, most importantly, than I ever did learning calculus. So you can just fill in the blank on all that stuff. Learned more about history just reading on my own, watching the History Channel, et cetera, right? Let's talk about time in college or school. Now, again, it might be a little different here. Things that actually impact your life, right? Being a good husband, boyfriend, father, taking 0 hours of classes on that. How to be a good friend. No one ever taught me. I guess I just had to figure that out on my own. How to manage money, of course, 0 on that. How to manage your own emotions. We're all wired a little differently. That's much more important than how smart you are. IQ and talent are way, way overrated. How to manage carriage returns. I probably should have taken a class on that. Over there. How to deal with difficult people. How to succeed at work. How to dance at a college party. That would have been super valuable to me. Spent about 2 years being really awkward and then realized I didn't have to do that. How to develop character and grit, right? Not just getting easy A's and B's and being told you're great and going to college and then realizing the world is very difficult. Any questions on this? Yes. UCLA. Yeah. Okay. So, mostly not. You'll. What I'll say is, you'll see, right? In a couple years, you'll see. So, about a month ago, I went into work. We work at in a co-working space. One of my employees wasn't there, and I said, "Hey, where's Sarah?" They said, "Oh, well, she's over at the coffee shop where we often work." I was like, "Okay." She's like, "Yeah, she had to watch her boyfriend's dog." So that's where they let dogs in the coffee shop. My reaction was, "Okay." I went about my business. So that's how I do things, because I know Sarah is responsible. She's very smart. She works hard. I don't have to worry about her. So I don't care that she has her dog over at the coffee shop or that, whatever, right? It doesn't matter to me. But I think we're unique in that case. Now, that is not going to fly somewhere else. That flies at school, it flies at Dapper Goat because I'm interested in the outcome, not the inputs. But most companies are not going to be down with that, right? And they will see at some point, they're not going to work for Dapper Goat forever. Just as you will see, right, once you get into the workplace, what mattered and what didn't, and how unique this was, and how you stack up against your peers, and where you're prepared and where you're not. And where they weren't, were probably not prepared. I know, you hear about snowflakes and participation trophies and all that stuff. It's all true. It's all true. It does. This was, and again, this might be a unique situation, but in general, this was a generation raised on that. It was a generation raised where kids didn't play on their own. There was always an adult supervising. So kids didn't learn to work out problems on their own. There was always an adult to mediate that. So they get to college, they get in the real world, and they say, where are the adults who are going to help solve these problems for me? They haven't learned to work it out. So not your fault, right? But here we are. By the way, this is all great news for me because I'm going up against people who are soft. Toughen up. World doesn't owe you anything, not a job, not a house, not a fair deal. Life is wildly unfair. And if you don't believe it, look around the room here. Look where we are, right? You're at a terrific college. It's safe, right? People are nice. You have opportunity. How unfair is that? You're going to encounter bad people all the time, right? Not just people are just who are weak. They're doing the best they can on that day, right? But they're gonna do things. They're gonna be in power positions, and they're gonna do things that are dishonest and unfair and ridiculous, and you're gonna have to deal with it. And you're gonna have bad fortune. I'm sure we all have. So be grateful. Yes. So yes. So some additional perspective on that. So Google and Facebook and IBM just dropped the requirement to have a college degree to work there. So the world is changing. The big tech companies stopped hiring at the Ivies because they were tired of dealing with students who were, one, entitled, and two, not risk takers. So how do you get into Harvard or Yale or here or any top school is by not taking risks. God forbid you get a C in a class because it was way outside of your comfort zone, right? And you did your best and your best was a C, right? So we all did the same thing, right? We're taught to be well-rounded, right? Which is terrible life advice. You should probably just be really good at one or two things that you have a lot of passion for, not be okay or fake good at a bunch of things. A lot of students do the thing of, these sort of fake charities they work for in high school, inflated grades. They were varsity on this and that. Okay, that's fine. You're playing the game. You get into school, but it doesn't work in the real world, and it's all really bad preparation for the real world. A note with that, with college degrees, so the best creative I ever worked with didn't graduate from high school. He was just wildly talented and worked really, really hard. His unique situation was that his dad had a graphic design agency. So ever since he was a little kid, he worked in his dad's office. Now, the fact that he didn't have a college degree, I cared that much about that. I looked at his portfolio. That's what mattered to me. So it's like, oh, you didn't have a college degree. I would be foolish to pass up on this person who was really, really talented. So one of your angles here is the college degree. That's fine. It is an advantage, but it isn't. I would say necessary, but not sufficient. But I don't even know that it's necessary. Right. So this is the media love to do this. Like, this was when I graduated business school or when everyone was applying. It was like the worst year for MBA hires. And I thought, not for everyone I know, because they're all super prepared, right? They've been doing the interviews, they've been doing the right things. And it wasn't so for the people that were struggling, it wasn't the economy, it wasn't the bad hiring environment, it was none of that. It was that they as individuals were unprepared. So don't get caught up in the big picture, like the economy is this or it's that. The media, Trump, Obama, none of that stuff matters, right? It's all a distraction. It doesn't affect you, what you're doing. If you're prepared, if you have the right experience, eventually you'll find something good. And the only way to do that is to take complete ownership of your life. But by the way, the reason I know these things is because I violated all of these rules and learned the hard way. So I'm trying to pass on some of my little bit of wisdom to you because I've made all these mistakes again and again and again. So this is it. All right, so to Adam's point about passing on a job because of salary, so don't trip over dollars to pick up pennies, right? It's good to hear this twice, right? Because you're going to have some friends like who go to work in New York, San Francisco, LA in investment banking. They can't wait to tell you how much money they're making, right? And they'll tell you 3, 4, 5 times in one conversation. That's fine. That's them. If you want to work in banking, go right ahead. Really, your 20s are about getting relevant experience. You're not going to make any money until you're 30, 40, 50, right? And then it's going to get easy. It'll just kind of come to you. So if you're prepared. So just focus on getting good experience, right? One job, it's like the difference between 40 grand and 43 grand a year, whatever. Really, $3,000 is why you're going to choose a worse job that prepares you less. By the time you pay taxes on that, right, now take away 40%, now you're looking at about $1,700. $1,700 is what you're choosing so that you can be less prepared, right, for when you have an opportunity between a much bigger job, right, much bigger dollars at stake. And this is important too, right? Jobs provide multiple types of compensation. So money is just one type. It's not the most important one, certainly not at this stage. There are a lot of different things that need to be considered. Give you an example. So there was a big scandal over free interns at, gosh, I can't remember where it was. Anyway, some big company. So, and they were saying that, hey, look, this big company is not paying their summer interns, whereas like Facebook and Goldman Sachs are paying them 5, 6 grand a month. Oh, wow, 5, 6 grand a month, that's pretty good money. But here's the deal. If you want to work in finance, you have an opportunity to work at Goldman Sachs, you should be paying them 5 or 6 grand a month, because that internship over the summer will open doors for you for the next 5 years. It's way more important than your college degree, right? Facebook too. Any one of these big employers, you should be paying them. The investment you put in that intern, if you could pay internship, if you could pay for it, the ROI is way better than a college degree. So perspective, right? You don't want to choose one internship over another because of a few dollars. I know there are practical considerations, right? Not everybody has that luxury. Some, you're paying for living expenses, whatever it is. But these are things to consider at this stage. Don't get caught up in money, what your friend's making. People tend to exaggerate what they make. I know that's a surprise, particularly guys. You can kind of divide it by 2. Right? So how to get experience now, work for free, which is what you're doing for Y Digital. What college is a platform that opens doors, right? So BYU is going to have a network. Take advantage of it. That's the real opportunity. People will take mercy on you because you're a student. Because you go here. Set up a meeting. I want to learn more about your industry, what you do. By and large, they'll be flattered. What's everybody's favorite topic of conversation? Yes. They want to tell you stories about their time in college and this and that, right? And you listen, soak it up. That's where the opportunity is to get those. Once you graduate, now you're just unemployed, right? But when you're a student, people look at you differently and they want to, they want to relate. They want to help create opportunities for you. So this is just a little bit of prep of what I want from my employees. So this one, I know this is vague, but you'll see. I've told this to all of my employees, what I would suggest, and I know that this isn't the training you get, but just why not just ask your boss? What could I do to be someone you can't live without? I mean, don't be like overly needy, but when you're having your onboarding meeting, go, what is it I can do to make you happy? How can I be successful here? Specifically. I want to be someone you can't live without. How do you think I could do that? Ask all those questions. It might feel a little awkward at the time, but people will be caught off guard because they're unused to hearing it, and that's really what they want. So bring me your solutions, not your problems. Okay, that's not a perfect saying for sure, but it's the difference between, hey, our client just called and they don't like the creative on this. And I'm like, okay, that's the first half of what I expect you to be telling me. The second half should be, what I think we should do is XYZ because of ABC. But I need to get your go ahead, right? So that's what I mean by don't bring me your problem to solve. I'm not here to solve your problems. I want to see that you've tried, you've done some work. Then I can help you through that, or I can remove those roadblocks. So err on the side of taking initiative. So, story. This is kind of how my brain works too. I had a friend, it's very, very well to do, is a collection of antique Ferraris that are crazy expensive. One of the guys who works for him was taking the car out to get it washed because he thought that's what the boss wanted to do. Dinged both the doors, right? So these are there's only 8 of these cars in the world. It's one of those type of situations, right? So the guy was sick to his stomach about it. And my friend's reaction was, well, hey, accidents happen, no big deal. Because the guy was trying to do the right thing. He was taking initiative. He thought what he was doing was right, and an accident happened. It wasn't like he drank a bottle of whiskey and took the thing out for a joyride, right? That's a totally different situation. But he was taking initiative, he made a mistake. Or he didn't even make a mistake, an accident happened. Okay, all right, accidents happen, can't be mad at that. So make your boss's job easier. This is really important. So, learn to manage up. So we always talk about managing down, but really you're managing up all the time. I'm managing up all the time with our clients, right? Brown nosing is highly underrated. Brown nosing gets a bad rap. When it's done well, you don't know it's being done, and it feels great. And it can be done authentically. You don't, I was gonna make a really old reference to Eddie Haskell. Anybody know that that is? Google it on YouTube because he was a classic TV character. But you can do these sorts of things authentically, right? Make people feel valued, that you're interested in them, right? That you recognize they're adding value, that you like them, all of those sorts of things. It really comes down to people and building relationships. Yeah, of course. Yeah, so mm, okay, so a long time ago, my wife figured out what to say to me and what not to say to me to get me to do or not do certain things, right? Um, so that's really effective. I wasn't aware of it. It took me a while to be aware of what was going on, right? My employees do the same thing. They know what to say to me, what not to say to me to get me to do certain things. So they've learned to manage me, right? I try to give them a primer on how I see myself, how other people, what it's like to work for me, the good and the bad, right? So that they'll be aware. but to just know that you have to manage your boss too. Yeah, because every time you have a conversation with your boss, you will make decisions on what to tell her and what not to tell her, right? And how to say it. Like, come right in her office, go, oh, the client just called, they hate the creative, right? Now, if that's going to get a reaction, right? So that's one way to manage the situation. Or you just come in and maybe you don't mention that happened at all because you handled the situation, right? That's another way to manage the boss. See what I'm saying? So it's really understanding that boss's personality and knowing that you're going to have to manage them as well, just like we manage our clients. So when I bought my business, I inherited a culture. It wasn't my culture. The people were great. They weren't my people, right? There was nothing wrong with them. They were all really good. I bought a couple of other businesses and put them together, different cultures. Again, nothing wrong with any individual, but the cultures just didn't quite work when they came together. So what was really important to me is that I hired people that I liked, so that you end up spending so much time at work. You think about 24 hours in a day, you're sleeping 8, you're commuting 2, right? You start doing the math and realizing you're spending more time at work than with your family. So it was important that I liked each person I worked with, right? And my staff is very different. They're all unique, and I like them all for different reasons. But this is one of the ways, right? Just bring your best self. So quick story, 2 older guys in my fraternity at UCLA were on the UCLA baseball team. And someone told me one time, they're not very good baseball players. They were twin brothers, but they are hysterically funny, which I knew. They are hysterically funny guys. And so the coach kept them on the team because they were funny and fun to be around. They weren't good enough to be on the team, but he liked their energy, right? So there's 2 spots open, right? So that's how they did it. So that's an extreme example, right, of how they created that opportunity just by bringing their best selves to the job. Right, so we talked about this, clarify expectations. So this is something we do with our clients when we start off, is we always work together to establish goals and KPIs, but we also clarify and ask, how will you judge our success? I'm not promising you're going to get clear, precise answers from your bosses, but it's a good place to start, right? When I started in my business, we had this happen several times where we all sat around the table, we agreed on the goals, we didn't write them down necessarily, or they weren't super clear, and then we went like this. 6 months in, we're like, we're killing it. We're doing so well for this client. The client had a different perception of it because we hadn't clarified the goals. And that was on us. Our perspective was that what the client wanted changed, but we didn't do a good enough job of managing the client. Yeah. So here's the thing. Like, as in, don't get in a fight with your boyfriend or girlfriend in the middle of the office, is what I'm trying to say with this, right? Here's the difference. So at like 1 a.m. last night, I got a text from an employee. I believe she's well and hope she's well. But if you heard about the shooting in Thousand Oaks, right? So that's right there where I live. I've been to that place before when I lived there. And that's where she lives, right? So she knew people there. And her house might burn down today because of the fires. So she texted me at 1 a.m, very apologetically. I don't mind getting that text, right? That's not what I'm talking about, right? I think you know what I'm talking about with this, right? Be early, stay late. It's noted. I know I know everybody who comes in early or late. I don't know that they know that I know that, but I do, and it's noted. Uh, I
That's never lost on a supervisor.
right. I don't go to my big book of records and record it necessarily, but it's up here. Yeah, you remember. Um, be early and stay late. That's always awesome, uh, because it shows me that you care. So you saw the photo of the earlier of the two people who are dependent on me, right? So that's who I'm thinking about. Right? I'll be fine. Like no matter what happens, I will be fine. But I'm looking out for them. So when you're working early and staying late, emotionally, that's how I kind of interpret that, right? Which is you're looking after my wife and daughter a little bit, right? It's my perspective. So be appreciative. I think that goes a long way, just in acknowledging opportunities, and then ask your boss what more you can do to help. These are all kind of rare. Also, by the way, not every day. that could be annoying, but or needy, or it's like, no, I get it. You're a star, right? You're an A+ employee. I get it. But you just check in, right? Hey, anything else I can do, right? Those things too are noted, right? We'll see those, and you'll see them too, right? As you become managers, you'll start to see that. This is a new word that's entering the lexicon. Have you heard this before? Steelman? What's up, Spencer? I'm going to say hi before I came. Heard a straw man in debate? The straw man argument? So this is, okay, can you explain straw man? Yeah. Right. Yeah, so you see this in debate, CNN, Fox, right, all the time. Politics, so common. At best, they'll use the weakest form of the argument. Often they just use a totally dishonest, disingenuous form of the argument, right? Like, well, my opponent has this stance on this policy, which is why he's a Nazi, and I don't believe in Nazism. I don't know about the rest of you. And you're like, okay, wait a minute, right? Maybe that's not a good representation of the other person's point of view. So particularly in marketing, advertising, we're trying to connect with people and understand people. It's so crucial to see the world through other people's lenses. So what I have my staff do is, have you heard of the Myers-Briggs personality assessment? Okay, I know it's not scientifically valid. I know that there are other ones that are better. The reason that I do it is because it starts to get all of us to think about how differently we see the world, right? How differently we communicate. When we say things and hear things, they get interpreted so differently. That just having that perspective is really, really important. So this is a question I try to ask myself and ask my staff as well. Say a client comes to them with something, it seems kind of maybe not a fair perspective, but I always say, well, if I was talking to the client, what would they say? Right. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, they would say that the creative was due on Wednesday and we didn't deliver it on Thursday, and that it was supposed to involve more video, but all of a sudden now you're like, okay, now I can start to see that maybe I wasn't 100% right and the client's 100% crazy, right? To start looking at it through other people's point of view. I'm still learning this. So I made an impromptu trip. This is a bit of my personality. And drove out here, and very last minute threw in a pair of jeans in my suitcase. Okay, so I've got 4 pairs of shorts in my suitcase, 1 pair of jeans, and then a thin coat, right? Because I was looking at the world through my lenses, which is I refer to my pants as my long shorts. I didn't even think to look at the weather, like what it would be in northern Arizona and in Utah, because I was just so accustomed to seeing the world as I saw it every day. I also wondered why there was a steering wheel heater on my truck. I thought of all of the things, the accessory, I'm like, this is so useless. I used it for the first time this morning. It was awesome. It's like, I totally get it. So we are all hardwired this way to see the world through what we want, through our interests, and we act in a very self-interested manner, even if you're acting of service, right? So, used to volunteer at a rescue mission. Why did I do it? It was very, rewarding. Right? So I was doing it for me, because it felt good. I had a self-interest in it. So it's easy to say, oh, I want to do it and help these people. They're really in need. I'm very fortunate. That's true. But I also wanted something back, right? We're just wired that way. We can get into the right or wrong of it. It's a different discussion, but it just is what it is. So with them is what we ask all the time. What's in it for me? Marketing and advertising is so important. We have people come to us with their products. They're so excited. They don't know why everyone doesn't own 5 Yeti water bottles, right? It's the best product in the world. They don't understand it. Why don't we have 1 million Facebook followers? Here's why. They don't get it. It's all they think about all day. It's not what everyone else is thinking about all day, right? So it is with you, right? And to then ask, this is the most important question you can ask people. This was a very useful class I took in business school. And we learned 2 things. It's a self-interested world, and to ask, how do you see it? It was taught by a social psychologist. At the time, I didn't see the value of it, but in hindsight, it's the one class I refer to back most of the time. So just asking the client, asking the other person when you're in a disagreement, right? Everyone gets stuck in their position. We go, well, how do you see this? People just want to be heard. They want to talk. They want to be validated. And then you're going to hear things that surprise you. Like, I never thought, I'm sure we've all had this in friendships, right? Get into a disagreement with somebody, all of a sudden, like, you're fighting, you don't know why, whatever it is. And then if you've had a talk, right? And you've done that with a friend. So can anybody think of an instance where they've had this conversation where things are getting weird and you kind of get into arguments, and then you go, okay, can we talk? Does anybody want to share a story? And then it's like something maybe unique that they learned they were totally unaware of that you were doing. You think of an instance? See a hand going up? Yes. Yes, please.
Okay, so I don't know why that's very common thing to me, but yeah, recently actually I was probably talking to someone today because me and my best friend have just kind of been like on weird terms, and like we haven't been arguing. I don't think I've ever argued that much. Like it's just kind of been like I helped him one time, and then like I was really supportive about it, and doing kind of school or like this thing, and like I had this huge thing yesterday, and like then we were talking about it, and I don't know really mad about it, but at the same time I don't think he knows that I'm mad. So I think that's what the talk is going to be about. It's like I need help,
Right.
and that's me kind of viewing it in his perspective, like he's oblivious to how I feel about it, but I'm over here saying like, why are you like supporting me as a friend, and I support you as a friend, kind of thing.
Sure. And is there a whole inner monologue going on where you start making a list of all the things that he's done that he could have done better, right? And why isn't he being a better friend, and what he could do better? And okay, so we all have that, right? this is, we get back to this like at work with email, the worst form of communication, other than I've stopped text messaging my wife because we start getting it, you have misunderstandings all of a sudden, like, are we having a disagreement? Like, it's a bad form of communication. You get in person, you can handle it. So knowing that medium, but when your mind starts running amok, it never runs, or you rarely make assumptions in a positive direction, right? It's always a negative direction of what someone was trying to get away with or trying to do to you or whatever it is, right? So really just asking the question of how do you see this? And even in that situation, you might say like, hey, look, I don't know if you sense this, but I don't know, it's just been a little weird. I was wondering, what have you noticed that, or how do you feel, right? Because then they might hit you with a bunch of stuff you've done. Who knows, right? But not coming to them with well, here's all the da-da-da, and they're like, hey, whoa, I'm not ready for this, or maybe they have issues too. But to just start off with, how do you see this, right? Just asking the question all the time, asking this of clients, asking this of friends, everybody, your boss. You might think you're doing an amazing job. Ask the boss, how do you see it, right? Let's see. Case studies. How are we doing on time? Okay. Yeah. Okay. It's a real world case study. So I was just talking with a prospective client. It's a big hotel in Bali. Not a competitor. So here are all the decision makers, right? C-level. We've got marketing team. And then of that, there's a digital person. And then there's a social media person. So in this instance, and this is also like traditional and digital. So do y'all know what I mean when I say traditional? Right, like print, billboards, TV, radio, all that stuff. Okay. So they've approached us. Their goal, million Instagram followers. That's their goal. Okay. I'm not sure where that goal is coming from. And I don't know a lot about the hospitality business. I mean, certainly not well enough to run a hotel on day one. I don't know if that's going to get more people in hotel rooms. So what do you do here? I'm sure you've had this before. I think they're at like 250K. This is why they've approached us. How much do these people know about social media marketing? Zero, right? How much do they know about marketing? Also, in this case, probably zero. They came up through operations, finance, other divisions. They don't know, right? Just like I don't know anything about hotel operations. That's fine. And if I did, I would bring a marketing perspective to it, which probably wouldn't be necessarily the right perspective. So what's kind of the thing that is always said here? Like, how would somebody approach this, right? You have them, they're coming to you with this goal. But what's their real goal? Yeah, it's always it. Okay. Remember this. Sales fixes all problems. Sales fixes all problems. Because you can shoot everything with the money gun. Sales fixes all problems. It's why salespeople often make more money than the CEO. Because what they bring in, it is so hard to do. It's so valuable. I can find resources to do social media marketing anywhere in the world. I can write a check and get those services done. I cannot write a check and get new clients. New clients are very, very hard to come by and difficult to keep. So same with them, right? New guests are hard to come by, difficult to keep. So the real goal is increase sales. What's the logical leap they're making here? Right. Like somehow this is going to lead to this. Is that going to happen? Yeah, negative. For sure, it for sure will not happen. So what do you do in this situation, right? How do you talk to them? Because what's going to happen? Let's say you get this in a year, get 1 million followers, and their sales are flat. Then what? Whose fault is that? That's your fault. That's how they're going to look at it. You're like, well, wait a minute. This is a goal we agreed upon. We wrote it in the contract. We've talked about it every week. We hit the goal. We exceeded the goal. Why are you upset? Dig, right? So just asking people how they see the world is not enough, right? We got to interpret. So what they really is sales, okay? So what do you do, right? You're on the phone. I was on the phone with them last night. How do you say that? Like, you're going to someone have a conversation with me, not Adam. But have that conversation with me, right? Like you're talking to you're talking to like your mom or your dad and trying to explain why you're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, probably not Pinterest. You used Twitter up until high school. You used to use Snapchat a lot. Don't use it so much anymore. Facebook, I'm just on because family and friends, right? So talk to me about this. Someone please volunteer. Yes. Yeah. So like pretend I'm the client.
Yeah, I would talk to them about using Instagram to find more customers and sales, but I would do like all my networks and just
Okay.
so maybe do something like do some engagement with content that reminds people that they want to stay and giveaways and maybe share with their friends or even try to get advertising through Instagram.
Yeah.
And show ways of here's what you can do on Instagram if that's like the channel you want to use to contact customers. Make sure it will sales, but just having followers that align with followers.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna challenge you a little bit. I'm gonna go easy. We don't wait. So wait. Well, we don't really want to spend money on ads on Instagram. We have great our hotel's beautiful. It's in Bali. So we have great content, but we need you to get us 1 million followers. And I know you said that it's not going to increase sales, but are you telling me I'm wrong? I've been working in marketing for 15 years. I mean, I know about social media. I mean, I could do this, but I'm too busy.
Okay. I'd say maybe like show them the time where you have followers and not just organic messaging, not actually something useful and having them followers unless it's like 1 million loyal followers.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, that's what we want because we have an awesome hotel. We'll definitely get that. And it's not I mean, I'm not vain. I just feel like it's in Bali. We should have 1 million followers. You're doing a fine job. I know you're totally on the spot here. Yes, sir.
One thing that I like to say to you as a client is we're going to go one step beyond the goal of being followers. We want to get quality followers
Okay.
by leveraging what makes you and your hotel quality happen. So what we're going to try to do is, yes, we still agree on the goal of getting a million followers, but we also want to track conversion. We also want to track the percentage of, let's say we track the percentage of followers that increase and then compare that with the percentage of increase in sales.
Yeah.
We'll try to make those really like
Okay.
So you can do that in a way similar to what Lex described.
So you want to tie your work to the outcome, the business outcome.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what happens if there's a big terrorist attack in Indonesia and no one goes on vacation there for a year? You've tied your agency's success to variables you can't control. That just came to mind because when there was a terrorist attack over there, I had a friend who was traveling. He was okay. See what I'm saying? You've done everything right. But there's a million different things that can affect sales. Oh, by the way, good and bad. You could also do a mediocre job and sales go up and they think you're a hero. So what's the thing everybody always says, right? We're going to educate the client, right? Okay. So you're going to do that in a 15-minute conversation over Skype? Probably not. There you go. They already know it. Look, I've been working in marketing for 15 years. You're fresh out of school. You're telling me about marketing? I know what I'm doing. I could do this on my own. I could have my teenage daughter do it, right? This, by the way, which I just heard from another prospect. I could have my teenage son do it. I go, okay, all right, fine. Probably not the right client for us. So educate the client is what we always say. It's not quite right. Because people don't want to be educated. This is not what they want. So you have to figure out what it is they want. So you are on the right track. I always do that first, right? Challenge them and say, okay, what's the real goal? And just get a read. Like, are they going to buy into this or not? If they are, great. If not, then you go to what you were saying, right? Which is we're going to do this and we're going to do these other things. Right? So we're going to hit this vanity metric. But you sort of have to know up here, was it a friend of mine says, don't give people what they ask for, give them what they want. So you got to keep, now here's the other part, right? You got to keep these people happy. You got to keep these people happy because they sign contracts and checks. These people have to report to these people. So this 1 million followers thing might be a metric that someone who has a background in accounting understands, right? There's a growth. I get it. That's good. I don't need to understand Instagram. My growth is good. Boom, I'm on to the next problem. So maybe this is really just about keeping their bosses happy. These people have to keep their bosses happy so that they can do their job. They're managing up, right? What do these people really want? 1 million followers, or do they want to look good to their bosses? So your job is to make these people look good to their bosses. And so educating the client is not the right way to do it. If that happens along the way, that's great. So I'll give you a real world example. Medicine, friend's a doctor. Said a woman came in, she was like, I don't know, late 50s, early 60s. Couldn't have been nicer. And she was having stomach problems. Turned out to be cancer, but she turned out to be okay. So she came in, they're having a nice, normal conversation for 5 minutes, and she's trying to get, work on a diagnosis, and she goes, yeah, well, the problem is that I have all these workers in here, and they're not working right. And he was like, sorry, what was that? And she goes, yeah, there's these little tiny workers in my stomach, and they used to do the right work, but now they're digging on the side of my stomach, and they're getting in fights. And it was like, you take a moment, and he's like, wait, I'm sorry, what? So one of the issues with this woman was she was a bit delusional, right? Was it a mental health issue? Was it a stress issue? I don't know. Does it matter? What's the goal, right? Is to cure the cancer. The goal is not to educate her on, gastroenterology. Right? So you don't get into a debate about, no, there's no workers in your stomach, man. Like, you've got 10 minutes. You want to have that conversation? Forget it. Go, fine. You know what we're going to do? We're going to help those workers get back in tip-top shape, right? Start talking the language they understand. And so that's what we're looking at here is to start talking in languages they understand. Now's not the time to get into an argument to tell someone they're wrong. Nobody wants to hear that they're wrong, particularly someone that's paying you money. And then start understanding, right, with them, what's in it for me? What are my interests, right? Your interest is, you thought, was it getting excited? Look how much I know about Instagram. You want to show off, show them you're smart. That's not what they're interested in. These people want to keep their bosses happy. The bosses want sales. These people want to keep their job. So you were right, which is, okay, right, 1 million Instagram followers. This is like, yeah, there's little miniature workers in your stomach, right? That's how I look at it. Fine, that's cool. I'll speak that language. Let us just get in there and help you, right? So we put in a language they can understand. Then through the process, we can educate them on the work that we're doing. Does that make sense? So my dad was a car mechanic, and I'd work for him over the summer. He used to tell me all the time, I don't fix cars, I fix people. And you know, when you're 16, 15, this is just another dad saying. But I think about it a lot, right? Which is, every job is the same, right? It doesn't matter really what industry you're in. It's all people. This is not about Instagram, it's not about Facebook, it's not about CTR and CTA. It's not about vanity metrics. None of that matters. It's not that important. Those are all skills. It's all about people. So think about people and their perspectives and what they want. Dig? Okay. This, by the way, this is ninja level stuff. This is hard. This is stuff I do. I feel I'm like a one-stripe white belt at this. I got a lot to learn. By the way, that's the second lowest ranking in jiu-jitsu. It's like you first stripe. This is really, 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 really difficult. The people that are ninja at this, you don't even know that it's happening when they're talking to you. You might not ever know it. They're so good at it. They make a lot of money. They appear not to work ever, right? Because when they go into that 15-minute meeting, they're so good at doing this that nobody quite knows what happened, but everyone's happy afterwards. So if you have a skill in this, in managing people, pursue that. You have to get the skill one way or another. Even if you follow the more creative path, more technical path, guess what? You're still managing people. Still got to sell that idea to the client. Who in here likes sales? Nobody, right? It's very typical. Doesn't matter if you're Leonardo da Vinci, he had to sell his artwork. He had to go get patrons, right? Like, everybody is always selling. So these people skills are really, really, really important. And I think now is a really good time to practice selling your idea to somebody, right? Persuading them. And just to understand how complicated these things get, but you can do it. And when you're looking at skills to develop, look at this. Be better at this, not at Facebook ads. You learn Facebook ads in 6 months.